How's it going, everyone? My name's Donovan, and in this video I'm going to go over 5 steps for learning from your mistakes. So if you're anything like me, you've probably heard the phrase, learn from your mistakes, like 1,000 different times, and you probably even want to do it. But if you're anything like me in the past, I didn't actually know how to do it. And I think a good example is soccer, right? I played soccer for a very long time, still play soccer. But there was a period of time where every time I would get past the ball in an attacking position, I would never shoot. Mostly I played defense, so it didn't happen very often, but I would never shoot. And then after every single time that happened, I would go and say, like, okay, that was a mistake. Next time I'm going to shoot if the goal's open. But then the next game would come, ball would come to me, I would be in an attacking position, and I would just pass, and I would never shoot, regardless of the situation. So I'm going to go over the 5 steps that I wish that I had at the time that would have gotten me from there to where I am now, which is actually being able to learn from my mistakes and change outcomes. So the first thing that you're going to want to do when you're thinking about how to learn from your mistakes is just understanding that mistakes are human and accepting them. One of the main roadblocks to actually learning from your mistakes or being able to grow from them is not really thinking they should have happened in the first place. Like, oh, I should have been better. Oh, I should, like how I was talking about with soccer, like, oh, I should just shoot it next time. I should have been doing it the right way. When instead, there's a little bit different way to view it, which is I had patterns from playing defense, so I wasn't accustomed to shooting, I was accustomed to passing. So basically, understanding that it's part of the process to make mistakes and then analyze them and make adjustments. So then you have a little bit more control and a little bit more say over how these things develop. The other part of accepting mistakes as part of the process is that you're going to need to ground down into your emotions and kind of feel out what it is you're feeling and work through that before you start doing the more serious work of that. As part of accepting your mistakes, you're going to need to work through some amount of emotions. So for any mistake that happens, there's usually an emotional response and the thing you actually need to work on, the process or the skill that needs to change. And a lot of times what happens is people will try to work on the skill while the emotions are still high, and that makes kind of the vision cloudy, it makes the work cloudy. So what you want to do is make sure that you go through the process of accepting and processing the emotions before you start focusing on the skill stuff. So for example, if you don't get a promotion, you're going to want to go through and deal with and accept and kind of go through the stages of dealing with that disappointment before you go into, okay, what skills do I need to build so that I'll be the best candidate for the next promotion? Or what did the person who got the promotion do to get themselves into that position? First, you have to accept kind of where you are in your emotional state and get that through the pipeline. The second step in learning from your mistakes is to determine what pieces of the event were in your control and which ones were not in your control. And this is so that you can kind of get an idea of where to put your focus. So again, for the job example, the promotion, like, you can set yourself up for the interview, you can do a bunch of good work, but you have no control over who else interviews. So if someone comes along with 5 times the experience, you have no control over that. But you can very much control how well you prepare, the work you do, what experience you choose to gain. So that's an important part of learning from your mistakes or these setbacks. And going back to the soccer example, right? So it wasn't completely in my control at the moment during the game what my old habits were, because I was thinking so fast that it wasn't a slowed down conscious process. But it was in my control to kind of practice or to be able to engage in kind of like those attacking scenarios in a way similar to a game, so that my habit would start to change, or so that I would have a little bit more of an inclination to take the shot. Or maybe I could have worked on slowing down my thinking during games so that I could have made a little bit more conscious decisions. That's kind of the difference, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to control my reaction in the game, but I can control how I build those reactions and those habits. I can control kind of how I feel during a game, if I think super fast or not. Those are things I could work on. And knowing what you can work on as opposed to what you can't really makes it a lot better of a process, because then you're not wasting time trying to change things that aren't actually in your control. Like, you're not going to spend time trying to get other people to not interview for a particular position. I mean, I guess you could, but it's not a good use of time, and it's not learning from how you made mistakes in the past. The third step is to explore alternatives that have better outcomes. And there are a number of ways that you can do this, right? So you might go do some research, maybe you brainstorm on your own. Another good option is to ask people who have experience and can kind of help you with the thing. So if we go back to the soccer example, I might ask what the players who play defense but still are able to switch into an attacking position do to practice, or what kind of mindsets they've developed, or what kind of skills they work on. Or in the same way, I might just do that on my own and just think about, like, okay, I don't shoot very often, so maybe I need more practice shooting so I'll feel more confident shooting in those situations. Or I might do research, and try to find other players who have gone through something similar, see what process they went through to get to a better outcome. But that's obviously one of the important parts of learning from mistakes is there is some piece of the process that you can change to have a better outcome. And it may be probabilistic, it may be uncertain to some degree, but there's definitely something that you can work on to learn from your mistakes. And this is what people are talking about when they say, like, you should learn from your mistakes. It's about finding how you can tune your process to get the outcomes that you want. Step 4, which is really important, I think this is like the key step that gets often missed or overlooked, is to have intentional learning around the mistake that you want to fix. So, for example, in the soccer scenario, the reason that I didn't really get any better during that time period is because I wasn't generating scenarios where I could practice or try out new strategies and ideas to change the outcome. I didn't go and spend time trying to simulate, an attacking play where then I could take the shot. And that's the real reason that I didn't make any progress. My learning wasn't intentional. It was just I identified the mistake and I went, oh man, I really should be shooting in these situations. But then it was just a thought. I didn't create or manufacture scenarios to actually practice it. And that's what's important. You need to, if you really want to be able to learn and change something quickly, manufacture scenarios as close as possible that allow you to practice and allow you to make more mistakes, but to change your process so that you can eventually get a more consistent and positive outcome. If you can, it's ideal to find situations where you can immediately know whether or not that happens. So for me, it would have been great if I could have set up some kind of a faux game where I was able to play forward and then, practice getting the ball and taking those shots, and knowing that more mistakes were going to come, but at a lower stakes uh, position. And that's not always going to be possible, but when you can get quick feedback, that's going to be the most useful for changing your process. That's going to be a critical piece to actually learning from the mistake. Step 5, and the last part of the process, is really just to analyze kind of how your adjustments are working, right? So is this process that you're going through, are these adjustments, are the ideas that you've brainstormed to change the outcomes working? Are you able to kind of accept, the mistakes, go sit down, figure out some other options, and then actually execute them and see progress? If you're not seeing progress, if the kind of practice that you're doing, the deliberate learning that you're doing isn't working, then you're going to want to shake it up and find some other way to achieve that outcome. And then again, that's part of the process of learning from mistakes, is you're going to most likely make more mistakes as you find the correct path. And that goes back to kind of accepting the process, right? Part of the process is making mistakes so that you can try this thing, try that thing, try this other thing, and see what the outcomes are like. And then you can more consistently take the actions that get you close to the outcomes you're looking for. So that pretty much outlines the process. As usual, I like to add a extra reflections or action step piece to the video. So for this video, it's the following. 1, what mistakes have you made lately? 2, pick a mistake and run it through this process. What can you change? 3, when and how are you going to practice making an adjustment? That's all I've got for this video, so I hope it helps you break down kind of the process for actually learning from your mistakes, as opposed to just kind of identifying them and then hoping that it works out. I know that's not the case for everyone, but definitely for me in the past, that was something that made a big difference, is just having a little bit more granular of a process. That's all I've got. So, as always, if you have any questions, comments, topics you want me to cover, put them down in the box below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. See you next time.
You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. Reflect, take action, and enjoy life. See you next time.